Welcome to the Monday Mile edition of the Over 50 Health and Wellness Show, your quick hit of inspiration and practical advice to kickstart your week strong. Each Monday, I'll be joined by one of our Silver Edge coaches as we tackle one specific topic you might be struggling with, whether that's nutrition, fitness, mindset, or lifestyle, and we'll break it down into clear, simple, actionable tips you can start using today. And here's the best part, you can knock out this episode on your morning walk. Just lace up those sneakers, hit the pavement, and let us coach you through the first mile of the week. Okay, let's get moving. Okay, folks, here we go. Just me again today, but I want to talk to you about something that's going to hit very close to home for a whole bunch of you guys listening here, and that's this. If you are over 50 and you feel like you're working harder than ever, maybe you're even eating cleaner than ever, and somehow, some way, you're seeing less progress than ever, I want you to know this, you are not imagining it. If your weight loss journey feels like you're pushing this giant boulder up a mountain with a popsicle stick, welcome to the club. Today, we're going to break down the 3 mistakes that keep men and women over 50 overweight, even when they're doing everything quote unquote right. And more importantly, we're going to talk about how we're going to fix that. So today, we're going to talk about why eating less is making you gain weight. Yeah, you heard that right. We're going to talk about why cardio is sabotaging your metabolism. We're going to talk about why going it alone almost always guarantees failure. And we're going to put in place a simple framework that actually works. So there you go. That's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get to that, just a quick heads up. If you want a plan that implements all of this for you, takes all the guesswork out, enrollment for the Silver Edge Collective opens December 27th. This is our coaching program. It's designed specifically for men and women over 50 who want to lose fat, build muscle, boost metabolism, and just feel freaking amazing, but without starving themselves or living in the gym. So if you want first access plus the bonuses we have for our first 50 come in, you got to be on the priority wait list, right? Those are the people that are going to have first access and they're going to have access to those bonuses. I'll put a link to that in the show note. You guys can find that in whatever app you're listening to this on, or of course over in our website. All right, so let's dive into this. Let's whip up our protein smoothies and talk about the 3 big mistakes. And mistake number 1, you guys see it coming, it's eating too little. This is for all my chronic dieters, my yo-yo dieters, my under-eaters. But we're going to start right here with the biggest, most understood mistake, and that's eating too little. I say this sometimes on this podcast, of the UOG guys have heard this plenty of times before, but there's a whole bunch of you all out there that are overweight and under-eating. And now some of you are like, wait, Kev, that doesn't make a bit of sense. What do you mean? The reason I'm overweight is because I'm overeating, right? Maybe a whole bunch of you don't know because you don't have a clue how much you're currently eating, but a whole bunch of you guys are under-eating and overweight. So most of the people over 50, now this doesn't apply necessarily to younger people. If you're 20 years old, your metabolism will allow you to get away with a whole bunch of things. But for those of us over 50, most people over 50 are not overweight because they eat too much. Clearly some are. Yes, I'm aware of that. But that's not who I'm talking to. And I suspect if you're listening to this podcast, if you're in this group, that's probably not you either. But many of y'all are overweight because you're chronically under-eating, chronically dieting, yo-yo dieting, have these restrictive eating behaviors. And here's why that matters. When we drop calories aggressively, your body's going to burn muscle first. Any muscle that it feels is not critical for your existence, it's going to use that first. Then it's going to slow down your metabolism. Then it's going to increase your hunger. Then it's going to increase the cravings. Then it's going to increase fatigue to slow you down. And then it's going to regain weight rapidly. Now, you might be thinking, that's pretty darn grim. This is actually how your biology is built. So over millions, well, not millions, but hundreds of thousands of years or tens of thousands of years, however long humans have been humans, we've had this metabolism that is designed to keep us alive. So when I say things like your body's going to burn the muscle first, it's going to slow down your metabolism, it's going to increase your hunger and your cravings, it's going to increase your fatigue to slow you down. These are all miracles, right? It's a miracle of your metabolism. This is your metabolism trying to keep you alive. When you go on a crash diet, your body doesn't know you're just trying to drop another pesky 20 pounds. It perceives starvation. It perceives food scarcity. And so it's starting to ring the alarm bells and just really slow everything down. So what that means then is that this is not a willpower issue. This is not a motivation issue. This is physiology. This is a biological issue. If you've ever felt like I do great for a few weeks and then I crash, or I lose weight and then regain it plus a few extra bonus pounds every single time, or I can't control my cravings, that's not necessarily because you're weak. In fact, it's probably not that at all. It's because you're under-fueled. It's your body trying to keep you alive. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but your body does not care how you look in a swimsuit. It just doesn't. It doesn't care about the upcoming, your kid's wedding that you want to look fabulous for. It doesn't care about that cruise vacation you want to look fabulous in your swimwear. It just doesn't care. Your body cares whether it has enough energy to operate the machinery. And here's the uncomfortable part of this. Starvation doesn't make your body smaller. It makes your metabolism slower and your appetite bigger. That's what happens every time you crash diet. And when you lose muscle during dieting, which most people over 50 do, you lose the very tissue that keeps your metabolism high and optimal. So over time, you can eat less food and less food and less food and still gain more fat. That's not a very good deal, is it? You being miserable, eating like a sparrow, eating like a rabbit, and still gaining fat, which is why so many people have lost the same 20 pounds 6, 7, 8, 10 times and regained it faster every single time they do it. Not because they're undisciplined, not because they're not motivated, but because they're losing muscle with every single attempt. And think about that. You losing some muscle in your 20s and 30s, probably not a big deal. And plus your metabolism was way more adaptive back then. You losing muscle in your 50s and 60s, how do you think that's going to set you up for your 70s, 80s, and if you're blessed enough, 90s? Not so good, right? We don't want to be frail and sarcopenic and have osteoporosis as we roll into our 80s. All right, so what's the solution then? You got to stop starving yourself. You got to stop chasing that rapid weight loss, that fast weight loss. I don't want to lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks. You got to increase some protein. You got to protect your muscle. I would say you got to build and protect your muscle. And when the time is right, when your metabolism is optimized, you need to create a gentle deficit instead of some crazy starvation diet. The goal isn't to lose weight fast. The goal at this stage of our life is to lose weight permanently. And fast weight loss is the enemy of permanent weight loss. I say this here all the time. You can either lose weight quickly or you can lose it permanently. You got to choose. It's a trade-off. And I get it. Losing weight, the slow strategic weight, is boring. It takes a long time. And most of y'all don't want that, right? Amazon Prime has taught us, hey, I can get this the next day or in 2 days. But if dieting worked the way it was advertised, you'd only need to do it once, right? That's not the case. You know it's not because you're listening to this podcast. All right, so mistake number one for a whole bunch of y'all, and I get it, not for everybody, but for a whole bunch of you guys, is under-eating, chronic dieting. Mistake number two is relying on cardio for fat loss. This is a second big mistake. This seems to be really common, especially in our age demographic. We grew up, those of us in the 70s and even 80s were told that the way to shed some pounds was lace up the sneakers and go for a run. And then that turned into aerobics and aerobics classes. And then that turned into the treadmill and all kinds of cardio for fat loss. But trying to cardio your way to thin is a failing strategy. So let me just be crystal clear here. Cardio is great for heart health. But cardio, especially cardio alone or excessive cardio, is terrible for metabolism after 50. And here's why. Cardio burns calories right now, like while you're doing it. Muscle burns calories like forever. So let's dive a little deeper into this. When you do lots of cardio, your body adapts by becoming more efficient, meaning you're going to burn fewer calories doing the same activity the longer you do them, while simultaneously you're increasing your hunger and you're potentially losing muscle. Now, I don't want to get too nerdy. I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole here, but know that there are two different types of muscle fibers. You have your type 1 muscle and type 2 muscle. You may hear of these as slow twitch fibers and fast twitch fibers. Those of us in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, those of us over 50, we are preferentially losing type 2 muscle. We do a pretty good job hanging on to that type 1 muscle. And you can think of it this way, type 1 muscle or slow twitch muscle, that kind of equates to the cardio, right? Type 2 muscle or fast twitch muscle, that equates to lifting weights or strength training. And a good way to picture this in your mind is think of a very elite marathon runner. That man or woman is stick thin. They don't have a gram of extra type 2 muscle on their body. They are just stringy and skinny, not particularly strong or healthy looking really, but they're very, very specialized to obviously to run 26.2 miles really, really fast, right? Those crazy people. And then if we think of the other extreme, think about a bodybuilder. Or think about a natural bodybuilder that's not on a whole bunch of steroids. But either way, those people have tons. They have a ridiculous amount of type 2 muscle. And it's that type 2 muscle that is really metabolically expensive. That type 1 muscle, it's really super efficient. It doesn't take very many calories at all to keep that on your body. So when we talk about you're losing muscle, note there's a distinction between muscle. You're going to hang on to that type 1 muscle, that slow twitch muscle, fairly reasonably well. But when we talk about sarcopenia, we're talking about losing all of your type 2 muscle and then a good chunk of that type 1 muscle. That's what you see when you see say a 70 or 80-year-old very frail person. That's what you're experiencing there. So when we talk about burning fewer calories, doing the same activity over time and simultaneously increasing your hunger and losing muscle, that's not a great combination. So you end up working harder, sweating more, feeling exhausted, and all for less and less return over time. Meanwhile, muscle, again, that type 2 muscle specifically, that fast twitch muscle, that's metabolically expensive, meaning your body needs to burn more calories just to keep it on there. You can think about it this way. Your body actually hates maintaining that type 2 muscle because it's burning so much energy. And when I say burning energy, equate that to burning calories. So when you build muscle, even modest amounts of muscle, you burn more calories at rest. You burn more calories after eating. You burn more calories while you sleep. You burn more calories while you're watching Netflix. You burn more calories when you're arguing with strangers on the internet. So your metabolism isn't Amazon Prime. You don't get results in 2 days just because you sweat a lot. So what should your approach be? Strength training 3 days a week is my favorite formula. So 3 days of professionally designed, age-appropriate, functional workout, full body workouts a week is perfect. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You don't need to be in the gym for 2 hours a time. 45 minutes to an hour is perfectly appropriate. That includes your warm-up and your cool-down. You've got to use progressive overload, meaning you can't do the same weights, the same sets and reps every single time. We either need to add another rep or add another pound every time we do these exercises. So in other words, we need to send a clear, strong signal to the central nervous system that says, hey, we need to pack on a little bit more lean muscle here because we have a demand for it. And you want to train big movements. So think compound lifts, things like squatting and hinging and pushing and pulling as opposed to isolation movements. And you want to focus on building capacity and building strength and not burning calories. So again, just a quick recap. The approach here then, strength training 3 days a week. And look, could that be 2 days a week? It could be. It's not as optimal as 3. Could it be 4? Absolutely, it could. But strength training on average 3 days a week using progressive overload, train those big compound movements. And our measurement for success here isn't necessarily burning calories, although we're going to do that, but it's actually building strength, building muscle. So here's a key reframe for this. If you're still trying to burn calories, you're playing the wrong game. Work on building a metabolism instead. All right. Mistake number 3 is going it alone. I want to talk to you lone wolves out there. Hello, guilty myself very often. This third mistake is sneaky. It can be emotional, but it's incredibly, incredibly common. And that's you're trying to do this alone. You're trying to do it by yourself. Most people think, I should be able to do this myself. I know what I need to do. I just need to do it. Or they say, hey, I'm going to start strong in January, right? But that mindset is flawed for a couple of reasons. Number one, your brain just isn't wired for solo change. Number 2, life is busy and stressful and distracting and unpredictable. And I know that's not surprising to any of you, right? Because we hear it all the time from our clients that life is so busy and it's stressful and it's distracting and unpredictable. And I have travel and company and elderly parents with failing health and I have all these different demands, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, right? You need a plan that takes all of that into consideration. So changing your body, especially after 50, is going to require some accountability, some support, some structure, some feedback, some community. What you don't need are heroic levels of discipline. So think about it this way. Trying to go it alone isn't noble. It's just less effective. I would argue that it's ineffective for most of us. If willpower worked, gyms would be empty every January. But here's the truth. People don't fail because they don't try hard enough. Not usually. That's not the reason why people are unsuccessful. And it's not because they're not trying hard enough. People fail because they tried alone with no system, no structure, no support, and no accountability. And when that motivation inevitably dips, in which it 100% will, motivation is your fickle friend, so does compliance. So if you want real sustainable change, here's what you need. You need clarity. You need a crystal clear roadmap. You need some feedback. What's going well? What needs improvement? You need some accountability. You need somebody saying, hey, this is the plan. Where are we? And you need that sense of belonging, that sense of community. What you don't need is shame and more self-discipline, white knuckling kind of mentality. So that being the case, how do you fix all three of these mistakes? Here's the simple, powerful roadmap. You got to eat enough food. You have to eat the appropriate amount of food. You have to eat the right food, which means prioritizing your protein. You need to strength train consistently with that progressive overload. You don't want to chase exhaustion, and you got to have some accountability and support, and you have to have a roadmap that is strategic and is not just for the next 90 days for you to drop 30 pounds or whatever. So eat enough, lift heavy, recover well, repeat. Pretty simple stuff, really. And when you do that, here's what happens: that your energy goes up, your hunger goes down, your muscle starts to increase, your metabolism starts to increase, your confidence starts to come back, and weight loss becomes sustainable. It becomes something that you can do and maintain for the rest of your life. And fat loss really becomes a side effect of rebuilding your body and optimizing your metabolism, not of you punishing it with grueling, crazy starvation diets. So let me share a quick story with you. I had a client, this was a couple years back. She was in her probably late 50s at the time, and she would say things like, I've failed every single diet because I don't have the discipline. And at one time I remember she told me, look, I can lose weight anytime I want. That's not my problem. And of course, you guys can probably relate to that too. Now, like we talked about in the last week's episode, once you get in your 50s, losing weight every single time gets trickier and trickier for all the reasons we discussed there. But yeah, she was a person that said, I failed at every single diet because I just don't have the discipline to go the distance. And she wasn't wrong about the pattern, right? She did, in fact, fail every single diet because she would lose the weight and gain it back. She just misdiagnosed the cause. She wasn't failing because she lacked discipline. She was failing because she was chronically under-eating. She was over-cardioing and trying to do it all alone. So once she started in our coaching program, first things first, we actually got her to eat more food, not less food. So we started her on what's called a reverse diet in an effort to re-optimize her metabolism. So we got her to eat enough food gradually over time, not quickly. We started her lifting weights. So she was doing crazy circuit training before that. We said, please stop. Don't go to the gym 6 days a week early in the morning and jump around like a maniac, but go to the gym 3 times a week and work on getting strong. We were there to support her. She was being consistent, and everything changed. Now, to be fair, she did not lose 20 pounds in 20 days. She lost it slowly, deliberately, sustainably. I don't remember the exact time frame, but it was more like 6 months, maybe even 8 months before she got to where she wanted to be. But most importantly, along the way, that weight loss goal became less and less important because her body was transforming. So imagine she's burning some fat. She's building some muscle. So even if let's just imagine that she lost 3 pounds of fat and gained 3 pounds of muscle. That would be a pretty dramatic change in body composition, yet the scale wouldn't have budged. But here's what really happened. Her energy exploded. Her sleep improved. She had this crazy back pain, and she said, I have to be very careful of these exercises, which we were. All that vanished, and her confidence came back. She got her mojo back. So one day she said, I don't feel like a smaller version of myself. I feel like a badass version of myself. Come on. That's what we love here at the Silver Edge. And that's the point, especially for those of us over 50. I get it. Some of you just want to be, hey, I want 2026 to be the year I finally get this figured out. I want to drop this weight. I want to do it quickly. We all do, right? Everybody wants whatever they want, whether it's muscle building, whether it's weight loss. And of course, we don't talk about weight loss here at the Silver Edge. We talk about fat loss. But the trick here is, how do I structure my lifestyle to optimize my metabolism, to rev up my metabolism? Because when I figured that piece out, the fat loss, the scale going down, you fitting into clothes you haven't worn in years, maybe decades, all of that kind of takes care of itself. But when you just rely on cardio and crash diets, you already know. You already know how that ends, right? It ends in miraculous results until it doesn't. And you also know that it probably gets harder and harder every time you do that, especially in this age demographic. So if you've been listening to this today and you're thinking, yeah, that's me, or maybe, yeah, that explains why I'm stuck here, or yeah, I don't want another January flop, then I want to invite you into the Silver Edge Collective. The Collective is our flagship coaching program. It's designed for men and women over 50 who want to lose fat, build muscle, boost metabolism, and most of all, they just want to feel amazing. They want their mojo. They want their swagger back, all without any kind of crazy starvation, misery, or endless cardio. Inside the collective, you guys are going to get personalized nutrition support. So we've got a framework that's got 4 stages. I'm not going to bore you with all that right now, but you are in a strategic journey. You have a strategic roadmap laid out in front of you. So you have personalized nutrition support that meets you where you are. You've got proven strength training programs, professionally designed, age-appropriate functional strength training programs for everybody, whether you've never lifted a weight in your life or whether you're a weightlifting champ. We have weekly live coaching calls. We've got accountability. You've got a community of wonderful people just like you on the same mission. So enrollment for that is going to open December 27th. Spots are limited, so we can coach everybody appropriately. But if you want first access, if you want the bonuses, we have some cool bonuses we're doing for the first 50 people, and that will only be people that are on the priority wait list. And if you want a guaranteed spot, then please join the priority wait list now. I'll throw a link to that in the show notes. Again, you guys can find that on whatever app you're listening to this on, or just head over to our website. So let's wrap this up here. You're not stuck because you're old. You're stuck because nobody taught you how to work with a changing body. But you can change, but it's not through suffering, but it's through support and structure and strength. Don't go into another January with the same plan that failed year after year. Build a different body with a different strategy. Thanks for listening, folks. I appreciate you. I love you. Get on that priority list. And until next week, stay strong. Okay, folks, that is your Monday Mile for this week. Quick, simple, and packed with power. If you found this helpful, be sure to share it with a friend who's walking their own path to better health. And hey, don't forget to tune in this Wednesday for our full-length episode of the Over 50 Health and Wellness Show. Until then, keep walking, stay consistent, and as always, stay strong.